So,
now that we're both back and a bit refreshed and our bladders are a bit less full, one thing I want to talk about was the departure of Matt Drake. So old Drake came back before Matt left, right? Is that correct?
I'm pretty certain, however, you might have to look that up, but I've got if memory serves me right, that is the case, yes.
Okay. So, Matt leaving, his reasoning, I completely understand.
Definitely.
Band, especially in a band like Evile, where they are, big, they can play venues of like, what, if you say 5,000, 10,000 people and sell them out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have lots of money. And unfortunately, you need money to live. And they're not... It's such a big misconception that I would like to shut down, that if you're in a band, you're minted. That's not the case. I remember an interview with Corey Taylor recently, Slipknot, about as big as you can get, right?
Yeah.
In the world of metal, and that he was saying there's a fucking reason we tour so often. It's just, we all have bills and rent to pay.
Oh yeah,
it's how it is. Just because you're in a band doesn't mean you have loads of disposable income. At the interview, if I remember properly, someone raised the question with Matt. So why did you leave Evile? He was saying, well, I had to work full time anyway. He was working in like a warehouse or something, just full time to be able to feed his kids and his family, And it was like, when I'm at home, I'm working. When I have time off, it's to go tour. So I'm either touring or working. So in other words, I'm always working. And he was saying, like, I just can't keep up with it anymore. I need to just, I can't just keep going and going and going forever. I understand it completely.
Oh yeah, completely. It's not an easy job. For a thing like, for most metal bands, they don't really make enough money. Even like as big as bands that we're talking about, like Evile, even like the biggest metal bands, like you've mentioned already, even they just kind of make enough to go, and that is a full-time job. But bands like Evile just don't get that income to have it as a dedicated job. They have to, they need to feed the children. They need to be able to live properly, and it's just difficult. And obviously, if you're overworked and you have health issues, because I remember him saying he had health issues, I can understand that. You see, but he had to choose between staying in the band or staying with his family, and obviously, you're going to more than likely choose your family. If you made a commitment and made a commitment to responsibility as a father and a husband, you have to, stick to that, and I completely understand.
Yeah. And as someone who works in the live events industry, I kind of get to see firsthand some of the behind the scenes stuff that goes on. You think, it's very easy to go and see a band like Metallica in a stadium full of hundreds, thousands of screaming fans, and you think, you look at the massive stage setup, the lights, the video screens, the pyro, and you think they must have so much money. But then you think, well, the band don't pay for any of that themselves. A lot of it's rented. A lot of the gear they have at big concerts is rented from companies. I very often see when I'm loading bands into venues, the same flight cases with the same company stamped on them, because it's just, they're like a big European lighting company that everyone rents from. They have warehouses full of lights, and they get them and program to do what they want for this tour. You think, who's paying for that? Well, the Live Nation or whoever the live kind of company is running that tour will pay for it, and they are like basically going to the band's label. Well, your band, when they go on that stage, better sell enough tickets to pay us, or else you're not getting paid. So in other words, the band are working for the label, unless you're like a massive band like Metallica and they can afford to make their own label and buy their own music, and then because they have Blackened now is their label, right? There's a lot of money just sort of floating around that belongs to someone, but it's not the band's.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you think about how the music industry works, it's insane. It's really
It's very complex, and let's face it, the money terminology, if you want to call it that, is mostly. If you want to look at the music industry as a whole, a lot of it does feel like a monopoly. So it's very hard for a lot of people to actually do anything with it in terms of capital. It's because it's going to mostly a few people.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one, but I completely understand that Matt's reasoning. So I mean, as someone as well, myself, because I've recently gone through health issues stemming from 2022, so for like 2 years now especially, I've had to stop gigging altogether because of it, because it's hard. Like, gigging and touring is a lot of, it's a lot on your body. It really is, and when you're dealing with health issues, it's difficult, and sometimes you have to think to yourself, it might be great playing the set. You think you see the set, but you don't see the entire time frame. Let's say the hour that you have within the 24-hour day time, or in the day, sorry. You spend it on stage, but people forget about the other 23 hours. Setting it up, getting it prepared, talking to everyone, traveling, and all that, and it takes out of you. It really does. And it was too much for me, and I had to stop.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. So, I guess moving on, again, as an Evile fan, you were there from album 1. There must have been a time where you kind of thought, like, are they going to do another album? Is it ever going to happen during that 8-year?
I was kind of at a point where I was like, I kind of got comfortable with the idea that they might never do another one, actually.
Yeah, so old Drake moves to lead vocals, and I remember when I heard about that, and I went, okay, this is interesting. I wonder what's going to happen. And then they announce a new album, and it's going to be called Hell Unleashed. What was your reaction when the news broke that there's a new Evile album coming out?
Yeah, so it was in 2021. I remember correctly, they were announcing it. I didn't know it. I was so caught up with so much going on at the time that I felt I didn't see it when they exactly announced that they were going to make a new album. I was a bit late, to be honest, because I'm a bit slow at the time, because there was so much going on in my home life that I missed it. But I saw it when they just released the single Hell Unleashed. You know what I mean? That's when I first realised, oh crap, they got a new album. Why did I miss this? Like that type of thing. So I was a bit slow there, but I remember listening to the song Hell Unleashed when they released a video for it, and I was like, I was really excited because I was like, oh my god. It feels different because I'm hearing old Drake sing, which is not a bad thing. I think he did great, but so it felt like Evile, but it felt like it wasn't Evile at the same time. It was interesting.
Oh, yeah. It's still like thrash, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just straight up thrash, just different vocalist. But I was quite excited about the album coming out, and I did really enjoy the Hell Unleashed as the riffs, and it were fantastic riffs. I mean, within the song and the album itself, the overall, it's definitely the strongest points would be its riffs and drumming.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Like, Ben did a really, really good job with Hell Unleashed. You can tell there's a lot of influences from people like Vinnie Paul and stuff. So, but I think he did a great job on that. So yeah, I was really excited when it came out.
Yeah. So
I mean,
because it's something of a big comeback as well for them, because I kind of feel like that the initial hype they got going with Enter the Grave and Infected Nations to a point was kind of just slowly tapering off towards by the time they got to Skull, and it was a bit like, okay, whatever, and then they kind of disappeared for a while. And then when Hell Unleashed came out, loads of metal publications were kind of going, like, this is like good, like really good. This might be up there as one of their best albums. And, you know, old Drake, fantastic as it turns out. He's a really, really good vocalist.
Yes, definitely.
But it sounds really good. It borders on like death metal vocals at times.
Yeah, I agree. And the Hell Unleashed vocals gave me a very much a reminiscent of Dent of the Grave, the way Matt was singing. Because like I mentioned a while ago, that Matt kind of mostly shouted on Dent of the Grave because he didn't really know much about vocals at the time. And I remember even Matt saying that Fleming Rasmussen said to him, like, "You can't sing, can you, Matt?" And he went, "No." So it was mostly just shouting in a very monotonal way, which works so fast because it's like on the borderline of being punky and deafy, whatever.
Yeah.
And that works for the genre. But the Hell Unleashed gave me that vibe of Enter the Grave, where the vocals were just like shouting, and that was it, and it worked, especially for fast metal.
I think you definitely get a sense of that kind of. On this album, is going for a similar thing where he's like, okay, I'll do vocals, but I'm not really a singer. I'm just gonna I say just shout. It takes talent to shout, and it's not easy. It's really tough. But, you know, because on the album that would come out next, he would start singing like proper, which is really. We'll get to that when we talk about it. But like, yeah, I just think Hell Unleashed is. It's a great comeback. It's a great sort of announcement, going like, "Hey, remember us, Evile? We're back, and we're gonna fucking beat you up for 40 minutes." There's no ballads at all in this thing, is there? What's some of your favorite tracks? I love the title of track 6, The Thing, 1982, so they know which film it's based on.
Yeah, like you have to say the year as well. Thing is a great movie.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Love that film.
Yeah, I remember watching it as a kid, accidentally. That brought trauma to me. Especially when it had like the legs coming out of it, and I was like, no.
Where you go to like use the defibrillator on him, and it just.
What scared me the most was when it had all the legs and the dog moving, and I was like, I must have been like, I don't know, 9, 8.
That's very young.
Yeah, it's a bit too young to be watching it, but it made an impact, I give it that.
The only thing I would kind of say about Hell Unleashed as a criticism, it's a little bit one note, I think.
One note?
Yeah, like I kind of feel like it's, the idea is, let's play fast and aggressive. But every song almost is kind of stays the same sort of level of aggression. It's kind of like when everything is aggressive and fast, it doesn't, after a while, it doesn't seem as like it stands out anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to go too much in my opinion until I rank my albums, but sure. I'm happy to agree with you on that, though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure. I feel like some of the lyrical themes were interesting, though. I feel like that was the thing that kind of, I found a way to kind of keep myself intrigued, like Incarcerated being about a guy who is falsely imprisoned and he feels unjustified and he's suffering and he wants to get out, and though he's been created kind of been given an image of this horrible person, he seeks to justify and bring down this criminal justice system for his, with what happened to him. And I feel like that really, I can really relate to I can really feel he's trying to relate to the world in that way. Like Paralyzed, there's like kind of like defeating your inner demons and stuff like that. So there was definitely some interesting concepts. I know Hell Unleashed is basically just hell is unleashed and the whole world is suffering and completely decimated.
Can't get much more than that, can you?
Yeah, you can't really get much more thrash, indeed. I think it was quite cool. They had Brian, is it Brian Posehn? Is that his name?
Brian Posehn, yeah.
I can't remember his name.
He's on the track Gore, isn't he?
What's that like?
He's on the track Gore, isn't he? Right, I like Brian Posehn quite a lot. He's very funny.
Yeah, it's great. I actually, it's interesting because he did some guest vocals on Five Serpents Teeth too.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's actually the first time he was in the band, but he was more just doing backing stuff with Five Serpents Teeth, like in the background. But this is actually more he's in it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the lights on because it's suddenly gotten quite dark.
Yeah, I've suddenly noticed that you're fading into the darkness as you go on.
If you want to talk about the artwork, because I think there's some stuff to say about the artwork, while I quickly go and turn this light on.
Oh, okay, well, as you're alone with me now, viewers, we will discuss Hell is Unleashed. Well, Hell Unleashed. There's no is in it. Ignore me on that one. So, artwork. I feel like Ruben probably have a more of opinion on this than I do. I feel like that's probably why he mentioned it. But aside from that, I feel that it's not the strongest of their artwork, personally. Is it the worst? Hard to say. But if I compare it to, I don't know, it's good. I don't have anything particularly against it. I feel that it's not as impactful as the other ones they've had.
So the only bit I heard there was just you saying it wasn't as impactful, the artwork. I think the artwork's sick. I think it's really cool.
No, like I mentioned with the viewers, personally, myself, it was, especially if they're looking at the time, I feel like you got on the context of when it first came out, comparing to the other artworks, like from what they had, I felt like it was the least impactful looking at it. Not that it's bad, the artwork's fine. This is not me saying it's bad. I feel like it's good in itself, like on its own, but if I compare it to Infected Nations and Into the Graves artwork, it just didn't quite capture what the feeling that they give, if that made sense. But it was straight to the point, you know. It looks hellish, devilish almost, and kind of creates a bludgeoning effect that it's, you know, fits with the album, and there's not particularly a criticism there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's again by Michael Whalen, great artist, as we've already said.
Michael Whalen's great.
It's simple. I like anything with skulls. Skulls are metal.
There will probably be a few people disagreeing with me on the album cover being not the best ones up to that point, but that's just, you know, feel free to hate me in the comments.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, that album is phenomenal. This is when I saw them on this cycle. In fact, when I saw Evile, it was the first ever show they'd done with old Drake on vocals. So I saw them in at Bloodstock in 2021, and like I wasn't sure what to expect, because at that point no one had, you know, we were the first people to ever see old Drake sing live, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. But they came on, and it was like, oh my god, this band are amazing. He's such a good guitarist. Like, you really appreciate that him live, right?
I was the same when I saw them.
They played a lot of the new stuff. They played the classics, like obviously they played Thrasher and Infected Nation. They closed with Enter the Grave, which was a great choice, I think, to close with. Obviously they played Cult, and that was really fun. Everyone loved fucking moshing to that.
Oh yeah,
great gig. One of the best bands I've ever seen live. I think Old Drake is fantastic as a vocalist, and a frontman. He's not the same as Matt, but you know, he is at Matt. He's not going to be the same, but I think he's a good kind of. He's a good replacement, I guess, for Matt's vocals. I think he carries the torch really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of carrying the torch, shall we go on to the next album? To date, their last one, which came out last year.
But just before we head to it, can I ask you a quick question, Ruben, about the...
Of course you can.
Because I did watch a few... I was curious to buy How They Were Live, and I remember watching a few videos of all performing, and I agree he did do an excellent job as vocalist. You know, especially being unusual towards the idea of it, he's adapted very well. When they played Cult, did they do the... I'm probably going to get demonetized for this, but I don't care. It's not like I make money from it anyway. Did they use the C word to replace the cult word.
I'm pretty sure they did. I don't remember the specifics. I'm fairly sure he made a joke about that before he I remember a little bit. I think he was saying, like, this next song's called Cult. That's cult with an L, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Well, what's funny is that when I told him, when Matt was the vocalist, he mentioned that, I can't remember the exact words because, again, it was years ago, but it was on the lines of, it sounds like another word that begins with C, essentially, and he wanted us to shout it when he played the song, so we all went, oh, we have to join our... And it's like Matt encouraged us, but at the same time told us not. Bolter didn't say the words. It didn't seem like he was encouraging bad behavior. There was some funny moments as well. I remember they gave us 2 songs to choose by, and I think it was either Armored Assault or Killer from the Deep. I could be wrong.
Well, Armored Assault, obviously.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I can't remember exactly. Or was it Armored Assault and Into the Grave? It was one or the other. I can't actually remember.
Okay.
But it was one of those. It was definitely from Into the Grave album, and they were deciding on something, and then suddenly, as to where they were trying to think of the song and trying to get people's opinions, all was just do counting down by playing. It just played countdown on the guitar.
That's an indication of old Drake's humour, though.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, it was another thing that happened on that gig I wanted to mention as well. When they were playing, I think it was towards the end, there was crowd surfing going on, which is quite common in the metal shows, especially small venues.
There was a lot of crowd surfing when I saw them, and I was at the front, so
Same here.
My poor head.
I think your gig was probably bigger, so yours was probably more intense. Yeah. But what happened was, some guy, clearly a bit drunk and not really know what he's doing, being a bit of an arse, didn't realise he got his foot caught inside the bass lead and jumped off the stage. And guess what? The whole cab came with him. And then Chris Joel. And the whole band had to stop playing. The whole thing went silent. All you hear was the whole cab's going... And Joel was like right next to it, like that. And everyone was like, "You fucking idiot!" And everyone just started trying to attack him, and then Matt had to calm everyone down.
Oh my god!
guys, no one was hurt. It's okay. We'll go back, pull her back, and we'll just carry on. It's okay. No fighting, everyone, please.
Oh my god. That's insane. I do remember when I saw them, because it was in the Sophie Lancaster tent at Budstock, right? So that holds, I reckon, about 20,000, and there probably would be about that many people in there when I saw them. Me being at the front, the barrier, as soon as they start playing Thrasher, I just thought, oh no. Just constantly getting hit by people surfing over me. Oh, but I tell you what, it was so fun.
It sounds it. It is fast, isn't it? It's perfect for like live, I feel.
Yeah.
Fun. For sure.
There's like 3 different circle pits going on at the same time. Oh, it was great.
Great stuff.
As well. It was like 2 in the afternoon when they played.
Oh wow. I mean, this year a week, I suppose. I suppose now that I've put that out of the way, I just wanted to get that out of my system. Let's go on to the latest album, The Unknown.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I kind of thought, I'll be honest, when it first came out and I listened to bits of it, I got about halfway through and turned it off.
That interesting, alright.
When it first started, I thought, okay, this is. It felt like after Hell Unleashed, it was like, oh man, I can't wait for the next one. More like fast, aggressive, bordering on death metal. It might even be heavier. I can't wait to see what they do next. And I put on The Unknown, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Interesting.
I remember when it came out, you really, really liked it. So what do you think when it came out and you heard it the first time?
Well, I feel like I should stem into The Unknown first being released as a single before the album release itself that happened last year. I really enjoyed The Unknown, and I feel like the reason I enjoyed it was for slightly different reasons to probably what a lot of people had. And I probably relate it back to when All left the band. But obviously we know, I don't know if you were aware, but the song Unknown is about him becoming a father. The feeling of becoming a dad. Like, will she see someone prepared, or be now my teacher, be now my guide, you know, the unknown. It's like that feeling of like, oh no, it's like, this is a real person I've just made, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you know, that feeling of first being a father, realizing, oh shit, I am this person's sole teacher, I am this person's guide, I am this person's father. That's a big step, and it really encapsulates that very well. I can hear it in his voice when he says it, that he means it. And at the time, it related to me a lot because I kind of had very much the same feelings when I started looking after my sister, Ray.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, like, I don't want to go into details of background, but basically, mum passing and dad not being around for her to be fully her father. Though at the same time, I don't want to. There were personal things going on in his health. That's why he couldn't do it. So there's no judgment here. But I had to, well, not had to, but I chose to become her sole carer almost, to be her parental figure in her life on my own. Well, not on my own, I have support, but like, I am the mother and the father at the same time for a young girl. So that, and when I first did that, it was terrifying. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to be a parent. Even, I was forced into it very quickly. I wasn't expecting it because I never even had a child. I just became someone else's parent almost. So it was a very big, scary, unknown moment in my life. And when I heard the song, I realized that's how I felt. And it really related to me, and I really related to the song as a result. So there is a very personal feeling with this song that I had, and I could really understand what all was explaining with it. So I did quite like, obviously it was a bit of a shock seeing him sing. So that was a big, difference for me. However, relating it back to when all was first, not all, sorry, when Matt was doing Evile originally, he had that thing where from to the grave he was very much just shouting to being more melodic and learning more how to sing over time. I felt like all has gone on basically done the same direction as his brother, where he got used to being a vocalist more and then started being more confident about the idea, leading into him doing more melodic stuff. So it was a bit of a shock, but I was kind of neatly surprised. I think he did a good job with it,
that's so interesting, because I didn't know that's what that particular track, The Unknown, was about. And you putting that in that context makes me go, oh, I feel bad for not liking it now.
Oh no, I didn't know how to do that.
Now that I think about it, I go, that's actually really powerful, that kind of sentiment.
Definitely, it does give a different context to, like, I think when you re-listen to it and knowing that, it will make you feel different. But I can understand it. It does feel a bit like the album itself does feel like a bit like Evile's. I can't remember words. Oh, sorry. It feels a bit like Evile's Black Album, almost idea.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. And while we're on that subject, I'm going to say it. I've avoided saying it thus far, but on The Unknown, it's painfully obvious. What is it with this band and trying to sound like Metallica?
Yeah, it is. I feel like old vocals feel a lot more James Hetfield than Matt did. I think when Matt tried to do clean vocals, it didn't feel as James Hetfield, but I felt like when All did it, it did feel like James Hetfield. And All did a good job. I understand he's not really a vocalist, he is more of a guitarist, and he did great. I mean, commend him for doing it, because it's hard, you know, and the guitar in it is still fantastic. Some of the solos in that album are great, don't get me wrong, but it does give off more Metallica vibes than everything else that they've done.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, for me, it was like, the pacing is really odd, because almost all of it stays that kind of quite slow.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know, I get what you mean. It does feel like that. However, there's always heavy moments. Like, I absolutely love Monolith. I feel like that's probably my favourite song on the album. The fact that, despite The Unknown being very powerful for me personally, I think as a song, I think Monolith is best. I think like the intro and then them kicking in with the Monolith shouting with the really slow, heavy riff. That was fantastic. I feel like that was one of the moments in the album that really just like, oh, this is really good, actually. I like that a lot.
Okay.
I know when Mortal Coil Shed is more of it's definitely the most ballad-like on the album, but at the same time, I felt like it was nice for All to express his feelings towards Mike Steph, and how it feels when someone's Mortal Coil Shed, I suppose.
Yeah. Like, you know, it has its thrashy moments. There's a couple of songs in here that are just straight up thrash. I almost kind of feel like with this album, I wish they would either just go full on doom and really, you know, go into like make it slower, or just do really fast thrash. I kind of feel like, because there's a lot of it's kind of in the middle. It just kind of feels a bit ploddy, a lot of it.
I see.
That's what I kind of felt about it as an album overall.
I can understand from certain perspectives of fans, they might see this album as a bit of a, where do we go with it? But at the same time, I feel like it's a bit daring of Evile to try, you know, especially for All. I feel like they try to branch out more. I feel like, though, they might have to shape a few areas a bit more first. I feel, because they're in unknown territory a little bit, but I feel like them taking that leap is going to be healthy for the band overall.
I think on their next album, if they blend what worked about Hell Unleashed and The Unknown together, it would be a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like this is these are the two albums that's kind of defining who they are again. You know, re-identifying themselves to then bring out something that's going to be amazing. We'll have to see. This is just future, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever they do next, they do next.
I think I need to listen to it again, because I've only actually, apart from Enter the Grave, me being brutally honest, I've only heard every Evile album all the way through once. There's some songs I know Evile, but yeah, this is the first time I've actually listened to all these albums. So it's interesting us talking about it, because you are very familiar with Evile, right? And I'm fairly new into, like, really delving into their kind of discography. But I think, you know, it's gonna, we're gonna understand in the future when they release more stuff, because I hope they do. I really look forward to seeing what they do next. What kind of historical context The Unknown has. It might just be that weird one they did, but they went off to explore something else. In the next album, they might go back to doing thrash. We don't know. I also I can't now hear the phrase "The Unknown" without thinking about that character from that Willy Wonka thing in Glasgow.
Fair. That's a good one. I like that. So I feel like opinions differ a bit as we got through the albums, especially with the last two. But we'll see. We'll see. I feel like everyone's opinion's valid. I will say before we, because I imagine we're gonna now that we're basically up to date with what the band's doing to this day, we're gonna rank them now from 1 to. Well, I feel like we should go to 6. So start at the bottom and then go to the top. Yeah. So like that's good, and then we'll do the same album. Not the same album, but the same number for the album at the same time. So we'd both do our 6th and both do our 5th.
Yep.
And lastly, I want to point out that I don't dislike any Evile album. I really enjoy them all. So even when I say my 6th favourite, it's still really good and still worth a listen, because it's really, you know, it's. I feel like at the lowest point of the 6th the lowest tier, it's still like a good 8 out of 10, at least.
That's fair. That's fair.
Or like at the top, you're talking like 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's quite it was a very difficult list to make.
Yeah, there was some, for me, some of it was like, okay, I know what my number 6 is. I know what my number 1 is. I know, well, this is definitely better than that. But sometimes it got a little bit like, is it stronger or worse? And why am I deciding this is better in my opinion? Is it because it sounds more like this? Or is it this better because it's more diverse?
Yeah.
So I think we should just get into it. So do you want to go first, Reagan? What is your number 6 Evile album?
Well, since you said it first, I'll answer. I was going to say you can go first because I got a feeling what your 6 is, but I think it might be a bit shocked mine. So my number 6, and again, it's still a great album. Just to point out, it's Hell Unleashed.
Really?
Yeah, it's my 6.
Interesting.
And I got a feeling I know what yours is, but Ruben, you do the honours.
Well, I want to hear your reasoning first, Reagan. Why is Hell Unleashed, in your opinion, the worst album that Evile have ever done?
Okay, so this is interesting. So when I was making this list, me trying to justify this as being number 6 was the hardest thing to justify almost, because I felt like it doing the album a bit injustice. But kind of like you mentioned earlier, it felt like it was pacing of it was a bit difficult to listen to as an album. Sure. And I felt like, though there are some amazing riffs, I think as an album I can really enjoy it, but I feel like as the flow goes, I felt like it was hardest to get into as a result from the flow. I think every other album had a really good flow to it. You can listen to it all the way through quite easily. This one had a little bit harder to it, but at the same time I still was able to listen all the way through and enjoy it. But I felt like it was, because they're trying to still kind of get their footing a little bit, I just felt like it was in number 6 for that reason. However, you take that as you will. I just felt like it was out of all the albums, with it being too samey all the way through, I feel like it made sense to have this as number 6.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. I think for me, because they are like a thrash band, I'd probably put it a bit higher because it's very thrash. And I think when I put on Evile, I want to hear the fast, aggressive thrash. So I'll tell you my number 6.
Yeah, go on.
So it's not going to surprise you. It's The Unknown from 2020.
I knew it.
And I agree with what you said. The worst Evile album is still pretty good, and it's fine. I don't find myself with the urge to go back and listen to it loads again. The pacing's a bit weird. I kind of feel like they should either go full on Doom or really fast. I kind of feel like this in the middle style they had on The Unknown was kind of a bit just like, it's not as effective. It was quite easy for me to go like, yeah, this is my least favourite one, I think, out of all of them. Yeah. But I do appreciate, like you said, the lyrical context of certain tracks from all.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fair enough point. I can understand from your perspective why you would think that. I did hear some people have that opinion about the album, so I get it. I might not share the opinion, but I understand the opinion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we should go on to number 5, and I think since I went first last time, you go first with the number 5.
Okay.
Number 5, I can't speaking, let's try.
So my number 5, again, because I don't think it's as effective as certain other albums, is going to be 5 Serpent's Teeth from 2011. It's good. It's got some really good stuff in there. I appreciate that Cult is that big single. It's their like Countdown to Extinction, I guess. Symphony of Destruction, I should say. It's still pretty good. I just felt like it took the parts from the the second album that I wasn't quite as keen on as Enter the Grave, and without any of the interesting bits. That's how I felt about 5 Serpent's Teeth. It's good. It's still good. It's just not as good as some others. So your number 5.
So it isn't Fire Serpent's Teeth, but I can understand why, for you personally, you would find that. And my number 5, which again might be a bit of a shocker, is Skull.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, so Skull is my 5th. Again, I think before I already describe why it is number 5, I think I should put into context that number 5, 3, and 4 were really difficult to rank because they're basically, for me, almost on par with each other in terms of how much I liked them and what I thought about them. So I really was feeling reluctant to put Skull there, Slow Down, but at the same time, I think because I had to, it's almost like because I had to rank them, I just put Skull here. But really, these next 3 are basically equal almost. So it was a difficult thing to do. So keep that in mind in terms of context. But this one, I just, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I do. I really, really enjoyed the album. I've listened to it many, many times. But I felt like, because I'm not going to mention anything too much later, but basically it did feel a bit like it was Fire Serpent's Teeth just being done again to a degree. Though at the same time, it's still done really well. I feel like because it didn't offer as much newness, I don't know if that's even a word, freshness, as what the other 3 before did. And so forth. And obviously, Out of Conduction, obviously The Unknown. Though of them had sort of fresher feels, like they were going and sort of like new things were happening, and I felt like Skull didn't offer as much of that. But at the same time, it's still an incredible album with some incredible ideas and riffs. Lyrically as well, ideas and amazing in it. So I think it's still a great album, but I had to just kind of pull it that far down for that reason. But it was really difficult doing so.
Yeah, that's fair. So, do you want my number 4, or do you want to do your number 4?
Well, we could go backwards and forwards. I do my number 4 first, so you can do the third first. So number 4 now will be your number 6.
Okay.
The Unknown.
Interesting.
Do you want my opinion, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know at this point, but so like I said, I feel like because it was a bit of a leap for the band, I do really like it for that reason. Like I like the daringness of it to a degree, and like I said, some of the songs did really point out to me, specifically The Unknown, Monolith, those 2 songs did really point out to me quite well. I felt like it kept my attention more in the album than some of the others, but at the same time, I could see why some people would dislike it, but for some reason, it just really captivated me. Like some of the ideas, the concepts, I can see O's vision coming together. I feel like I enjoyed it for those reasons. However, at the same time, it's still not quite the top peak prime of Evile, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I can appreciate that. So, my number 4, if you want to hear it.
Of course.
You're going to get so angry at me. My number 4 is Infected Nations from 2009.
Not 2019.
I just feel like a little bit. It was a step down, I think.
Interesting.
I'm not as keen on the slower stuff. They would, well, I say slow, it's still pretty quick, but like, you know, it's a bit more mid-tempo than the one that came before. And I think they have more interesting stuff. And as a thrash band, I would rather listen to something a little bit more aggressive.
Interesting, yeah.
It's a good album. It's really, really good. I just didn't think it was as good. And I think a lot of it is to do with the context of when Enter the Grave came out, it was so good and it was so just in your face and fast. And then this felt like a little bit of a kind of, like I say, a little bit of a downgrade.
I understand it. I can understand the reasoning, definitely. Again, I disagree, of course, but I feel like it's more on the audience side of what they prefer. If you prefer the faster stuff, I can understand. But if you're okay with some of the mid-tempo ideas, and you can get on with mid-tempo music, especially within sort of extreme metal, I can see you making the album more as a result.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't dislike the album. I just think it's just personal preference. I would rather, if it was a choice between that or something a bit faster, a bit heavier, I would choose fast and heavy. That's just personal.
Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned myself, to be fair, saying it's just because it's number 4 doesn't mean it isn't good. They're all really good, and they're all deserve a listen. Don't get me wrong. But I can get why it's number 4 for your reasoning. However, I don't agree with it at the same time. So number 3, and you do the honours of starting this one off.
Okay, so my number 3, I'm gonna put Hell Unleashed, 2020.
Ah, yes.
The parts that the aspect of this album that I feel a little bit weaker than some others, I feel that they're outweighed by how good the strengths are. I love that it's just quick and fast and aggressive and heavy. I kind of feel like it would have been better if it was a little bit shorter. So if it was like 30 minutes or something and it was just a quick slap in the face, that I think it would have been even better. But I like Ul's vocals on this. I like it bordering on death metal at times. I just really like this one. I think it's got some really, really good stuff on there. I love the artwork as well, as I mentioned. I just love the impact that it had when it came out. And like I said, that cycle was when I first saw Evile, so that's when I got, getting to see this stuff live was amazing.
I can really understand that. Like I mentioned, though I put it as number 6, it is still a great album to listen to. It's great. I can't argue it. It's got obituary feels to it almost, to a degree. Definitely. But at the same time, I felt like it was the hardest one to get into, personally, at the same time.
No, that's fair. I get that. So what's Reagan?
My third. So my third is Five Serpents' Teeth.
Okay.
So this may be coated in the idea of nostalgia. I'll be honest, because Five Serpents' Teeth is really nostalgic for me, and so is the next 2 as well. So these are probably tainted in that, because obviously from your perspective, like you mentioned earlier, is that you're seeing it from a newcomer's eyes of all these albums, where I'm seeing it as someone who's grew up on the albums, very much a different outlook on this. So Five Serpents' Teeth might have been lower, possibly, if I was in your shoes as a result, but we won't really never know that. But I do really like the album. It's fantastic in terms of some of the guitar stuff in it. I really enjoy. Like I said, the guitar in Memoriam is fantastic. The Dim Dreams of Terror, it's a great riff, and probably my favourite breakdown they've ever written, I'll be honest with you. Centurion is really catchy. Exoria, I think the solo in that, again, I really like the solo in that one particularly. It's really good the way it leads in to the solo. Again, I can keep going. I think for me though, it's that there was a sort of progression with Matt's vocals again. I could see Matt was really working hard on being a vocalist at this point, and it kind of showed a little bit, like there was with the melodicness of his vocals, more so. And I feel like it was a bit of a step for them as a result of doing it. Where that's why I kind of put Skull a little. Like again, these 3 I just mentioned were kind of on par, but I put Skull underneath Five Serpents' Teeth because I felt like there was more of a push with Five Serpents' Teeth in their sound, where they were going with it. Whereas Skull, they kind of got a bit more comfortable with who they are. But at the same time, don't get me wrong, I feel like all these 3 are quite equal, despite the fact that I ranked them.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I wanted to mention that. So we'll go to number 2 now.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, I mean, it's probably going to be obvious now which my number 2 will be, and that's obviously Infected Nations.
Right, okay, that's fair.
And going back to my point before, this album is extremely nostalgic, and the next 2 are the most nostalgic of all. So there is that involved, obviously. However, I love this album so much. Not only is Mike Alexander's last album he did, I think some of the riffs are some of the best. Like, I love the riff to Genocide. It's actually really, really good. Affected Nation is a brilliantly written song.
Yeah.
It's like the peak of songwriting in terms of technicality, if you want to put it that way. Because the rhythms, the chords, the solos, and all that. It's all like there's a lot of thought going into writing that song, I feel. Now I just don't know. Something about the mid-temponess kind of hypnotized me into just keep on listening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that completely.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess I like some of the concepts in it as well, like the way Genocide kind of. Oh, let me jump.
Come back to that, Ray. I gotta get the door. Oh, you haven't? Shall I leave it then? No, I'll leave it. Okay, sorry about that.
Anytime, I'll just edit that out, all right?
That's fine. So, what were you talking about when the doorbell went off? So we can just cut that out and go back to what you were saying.
Yeah. Well, it was just after I mentioned about being hypnotized by the mid-tempo theme of the album. I was going into just the lyrical themes. I quite enjoy, like I mentioned, Genocide is really cool because, well, not cool, but really profound in the sense of like it's someone witnessing genocide happening and the acts of war and the way they want it to stop and the idea that the future is to a point where it's so bleak that no one's going to survive. It's kind of sad, but very well written in that point of view. Affected Nation, I'm not so sure what that actually means, but I imagine it's kind of saying how humans infect things. It felt like that's the direction they were going in. However, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
I think it's a fair assessment, yeah.
Yeah, they gave off that vibes, and then Metamorphosis was really cool, where like it was expressing the band changing at the time. Again, I feel like that was quite bittersweet almost in a hindsight view as well. But yeah, generally speaking, I think the thing that got me the most was the hypnoticness of the mid-tempo parts. That kind of it was forcing me in. I couldn't let go almost.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So, what's your number 2, Ruben?
So my number 2 is probably not what you'd imagine. It is Skull from 2013.
Okay, yeah, I think it's the big one for you, the big shocker one.
Yeah, like I get like some Evile fans would be like, "What the fuck?" when it came out, but for me, I think it's more interesting and more diverse than Five Serpent's Teeth, which is the album that preceded it. It's the last album with Matt, so it's a bit bittersweet as well. Yeah, I just like how it's a bit of a mixture of styles. It's got the thrash stuff, it's got the slower stuff, but together on the same album, so from start to finish, it feels like an interesting journey.
Definitely.
That's kind of, yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, yeah, it's a great album. Like I said, when I was deciding Skull, Unknown, and Five Serpent's Teeth, I was very much like, these albums I enjoy equally as much as the other, and I can't really rank them, but if I had to, I just did it purely on the basis that I thought The Unknown and Five Serpent's Teeth just pushed it a little bit more, and was a bit more of a push for the band. And at the same time, I felt that maybe Five Step and Steve had a bit more nostalgia personally for me, and that's why I put them in that order. But if you want my personal opinion, those three are all as good as each other, in my point of view.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's become obvious now that we both have the same number one, don't we? Which is, I think, there was no question it was going to be this one. So, the number one, both of our number one Evile album of all time, is Enter the Grave from 2007.
Fantastical!
It's just that good. It's such a good fucking album.
I mean, not only is it a really fucking good album, it's one of the best debut albums of a band, period. And
it's one of the best thrash metal albums of all time.
Yeah, I think it is up there. It's like in my top 3 thrash metal albums to ever exist. And probably it would definitely be in my top albums to exist. Just not even outside the genre as someone who's a massive metal fan and thrash fan. But on top of that, not only is it just an excellent debut album, but I think it's perfect. I don't want, if someone told me what would I change about the album, I'll say nothing. Keep it the way it is. It doesn't need to.
I agree. I think, it's everything you want from Evile. It has all of their best songs on this album. It's, every song on its own is fantastic. As an album from start to finish, it's a very satisfying listen. If you just want some adrenaline and some cool riffs and some, just awesome song concepts and some proper, just straight up thrash metal. Like, if someone had never heard thrash before, you could do a lot worse than showing this album Enter the Grave. It's about as thrashy as you can get.
I mean, you're spot on. It is the ultimate thrash element. Like, it doesn't have quite. I feel like it has the right amount of seriousness and tongue-in-cheek at the same time. Like, though I love Gamma Bomb and Your Lich Kings, but you can tell they're a lot more on the tongue-in-cheek surface, which still makes them great bands. Like, I'm not saying I don't want to mitigate them, but you can tell Evile trying to take themselves a little bit more seriously, but at the same time, not so serious. And I feel like it's the perfect blend of it. Like, Thrasher is everything that thrash is.
Oh, that is, like, yeah. I was going to say, like, if Enter the Grave is a great introduction album for thrash, then if someone's just like, I've never heard thrash before, but I've only got time for one song, you just go, oh, Thrasher. The lyrics explain the genre. Like, it's a fucking amazing song as well.
No, I agree completely, and like I said, they explore a lot of serious themes, like Enter the Grave being about a serial killer, or that type of thing, right? But then you got songs like Man Against Machine, which I don't know exactly if I'm right on this, but it feels like it's probably influenced by Terminator.
Yeah,
right?
I thought that.
I thought the same. So again, and then you got like Thrasher, which is just about banging your head and being thrash. So it's like there's all these elements to. I feel like all the different themes within each song capture what people sing about thrash. Thrash itself, the tongue-in-cheek, let's be funny, and then at the same time, talking about serious things like serial killers, or Armored Assault, where it's talking about war. Like First Blood feels like an Exodus song, yeah. Armored Assault feels like a Sodom song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what else is there you can say about the album? It's perfect. I think we both agree it's our favourite Evile album. But for me, it's my favourite Evile album by quite a big margin. Like I said about this ranking, I was okay. I know what my number 6 is. I know The Unknown is my least favourite, and I was thinking the whole time, well, Enter the Grave is the best one. It's easily my favourite one.
No, exactly. And I was the same. Like, I was kind of on a slightly different level. I was like, Enter the Grave, number 1. No two ways about it. Impersonation, number 2. No two ways about it, right? And then I was like, okay, well, Unknown, like I mentioned this already, so sorry. Unknown, Skull, and Five Stones Teeth was like equal up under Infected Nations, and I felt like Hell Unleashed and Skull were equal underneath that, right? And then that's where the ranking kind of became hard, was to separate those ones apart almost.
Yeah.
So again, it was a bit of a different for me, I suppose. Of the top two, I was like, definitely.
That's fair. Yeah. So to recap, then, what was your ranking then? Your 6 to 1.
So like all the way through. So starting from number 6, it will be Hell Unleashed, Skull, Unknown, The Unknown. Sorry, Five Serpents' Teeth. Oh no, hang on. Screw it. I'm going to re-edit that. I'm sorry, I forgot about Skull. My brain. Sorry. All right. Repeat. Hell Unleashed, Skull, then The Unknown, then Five Serpents' Teeth, then Infected Nations, then Execute.
Yep. So my list was my number 6, The Unknown. Number 5, Five Serpents' Teeth. Number 4, Infected Nations. Number 3, Hell Unleashed. Number 2, Skull. And number 1, which is both our number 1s, Enter the Grave.
Yes. I feel like it's kind of interesting. That was the only one we had the same.
I think it is literally the only one we both agreed on, yeah. That's cool, though. Yeah.
But I think most people would agree who are fans of the band. So.
I have a feeling the band would probably agree as well. That probably is their bit. There's a reason why recently, we forgot to mention actually in the history, a couple of years ago, Matt rejoined the band for one single show and they played Enter the Grave in its entirety.
Yeah, I did hear about that, and I forgot to mention it. Really good point. I did also forget to mention one thing, which I would mention, but I didn't mention. Say that 10 times fast. So when I remember mentioning about All, remember I mentioned about All and him being a father, and the Unknown being about that. Well, actually, I'm pretty certain that All left the band originally back in 2016 that he left?
I think it was 2014 or 15, because I think it was before Old Rake came out, because that came out in 2015.
Oh, hang on. I remember now. Yeah, you're right, it was. He departed in 2013, I remember now. I was way off, sorry.
Okay.
And I think one of the reasons he was to do with his family life, and I think because he was about to become a dad, he was very unknown. He was very scared about the direction he was going in, whether he could dedicate himself to being a dad and being in the band. So at the time, I completely understood why he left. So he was, and I feel like The Unknown kind of encapsulated what happened when All left in 2013 and how he was feeling at that point. If that makes sense. So I wanted to kind of relate that, but then interestingly enough, by the time we joined Matt, not long, I think after 2 years, Matt left. Matt left in 2020, I think. So that was interesting, and obviously All Rake happening in the time frame where he was on his own. I wanted to point that out. Just from felt like that was worth it now.
Fair enough, yeah. So I think, if we haven't got anything really else to mention, I think this is a good time to kind of wrap it all up. So we both love Evile. I think they're a great band. There's some great albums. I can't wait to see what they do next. I'd love to see them again. Just really important band. If you like thrash and you somehow haven't listened to them, for fuck's sake, go out right now and go and buy Enter the Grave on vinyl. Just go and get it, because it's amazing.
Oh yeah, sure. If your money's definitely it's definitely worth the money buying all their albums on vinyl, CD, whatever format you enjoy. Because I know there's different people's preferences on that. I mean, I've got them on CD. If you got them on vinyl, awesome for you too. But either way, one of the band I definitely think it's worth putting your money into just to buy their records because of how much work and effort they put into it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And obviously, a great one to see live too.
Oh, absolutely. They're just phenomenal live. So, the next thing we're going to do then, and then we can finally move on from thrash.
Yeah.
We're going to do our top 10, very similar to what we did. I'll put this in my number 10 and your number 10, or whatever order we do it in. Our top 10 thrash metal albums of all time.
Yes, indeed. And I
So-
think... Oh, go on, sorry.
No, go on. After you.
Oh, no, yeah. I was going to say, however, it's going to be a less of a retrospective point of view, where I feel like we were ranking Evile albums, but we're also talking about Evile as a band and what
Yeah.
who they are retrospectively, where this next one would just be like, this is our top 10 thrash, and that's it, almost.
Yep, it'd be number 10. This is why it's number 10. So, number 1 is obviously going to be State Anger. But yeah, no. So yeah, I think we've talked for long enough, Reagan. This is the longest one so far by quite a margin. So
Anyway, I suppose we just want to express our love to the band, and I hope I wasn't being too annoying repeating myself sometimes, but I hope everyone enjoyed listening, and hopefully, you never know, one of the members might stumble upon this video and, and if that is the case and they do like it, well, I'll just jump up and down like a little girl fanboy. Girl fanboy, I don't know how that works. Well, maybe.
So, yeah.
It could,
I think this is a good time to end it. So all that remains is just thanks for listening. If you've listened, go listen to Evile because they're amazing.
yeah. Alright, everyone, thank you for watching, and farewell.